Welcome back. Lots of fascinating developments on the corporate scene lately. Stephen Tindall's attempt to privatise the warehouse, results from Briscoes, Feltex and Pumpkin Patch, and a weaker housing market have been some of the big talking points. To discuss now, I'm joined by business commentator Brian Gaynor. Hi there, Brian.
Good morning, Michael.
So the warehouse move by Stephen Tindall, that came out of the blue for most of us. What's your feeling about whether this will succeed?
Yeah, well, I think the market was surprised. They thought Stephen Tindall was a seller, but Stephen Tindall is the warehouse. He started off, he's had a very close connection with it. He's always owned over 50%, and maybe he just wants to finish off his career showing that he can actually turn the warehouse around to be the kind of legacy it was about 10 years ago before it went into Australia. The chance of success at $6, I would say, is pretty slim. He's going to have to raise his offer above the $5.75 that he's indicated. He's only given an indication at this stage. He's only talking about he's looking to privatise it. He hasn't actually, he stated a price, but he doesn't say that that's specifically the price. I would imagine it will have to be over $6.
What's the role of PEP in all this?
Well, PEP is supplying the funds. Effectively, Mr. Tindall is putting in his 50%, and that's worth about $900 million at the moment, and PEP, which is the Australian private equity firm, will purchase the remaining from the public. That's as we understand it, but of course, very little detail has been given at this stage. They will effectively be a funder. They will leverage their position, obviously, into the company, and they will be hoping to get out within 3 or 4 years, and be interested to see what kind of agreement there is about the exit strategy for either Mr. Tindall or the Australian private equity firm.
OK, now, Feltex, we still have no decision yet on whether it's going to survive, but we do have the profit result, or the loss, I should say. What are your feelings about that?
Well, it was a fairly monstrous loss. It was a $58 million loss, although there was some extraordinary write-downs, which, of course, is the goodwill connected with the Shaw's purchase in Australia, which indicates that that was a fairly disastrous move. There are a few other extraordinary items. Looking at the sales figure, which probably give a better indication, sales in the first half of the year were down 15% and only down 8% in the second half. So you could actually say that the company's position isn't getting as bad as it was 6 months ago. But the balance sheet looks fairly sick. The company has shareholders' funds of less than $30 million and it's got total assets of just over $220 million. I would imagine that the recapitalisation will have to be more than the $51 million the Turner brothers are talking about. So obviously there's still a lot of discussions between the banks, probably the Turner brothers, and maybe even Godfrey Hirst regarding any moves about this company over the next few weeks.
Do you suspect that the bank's going from one to the other?
I would imagine so. When you look at the balance sheet, you know that the banks, will be desperate to get either their money out, or else if they're going to leave some money in, they're going to want a much bigger recapitalisation than the Turner brothers are suggesting.
Now, the retailers, the results from Pumpkin Patch and Briscoes, both pretty solid results?
Yeah, they were actually. You know, we consider that retailing is very difficult, and of course the Pumpkin Patch said that Australia and New Zealand, which represent over 60% of their sales at the moment, are very difficult at present. But the great thing about Pumpkin Patch, it's finding new territories all the time. The UK turned a profit for the first time. The US is still making a loss, but they're very optimistic about it. But their wholesaling business, that's the business where they actually don't have their own stores, but they sell to other stores who sell on their behalf. That's done particularly well. The second half result from their wholesaling was very good. They're doing very well in the Middle East, Dubai and places like that. They're entering into South Africa, and they're looking at countries like Poland. So they're doing very well outside their more traditional areas of Australia and New Zealand.
OK, thanks very much. Business commentator Brian Gaynor.